Hey guys, Steve here. I'm really excited to get with you today and give you a little tour of what I've got going, this little project I've got going. I am setting up a studio in this little, well, it's a furnace room. And I had just unboxed this new little Shimpo Aspire pottery wheel here. And I'm excited to be able to work from my house rather than going into the studio, but it's going to take some reconfiguring. But what I'm going to do is build a little bench right in here. I'm going to set up the wheel on a standing bench. I'm going to set up a wedging table, and then of course I'll have all this storage converted into pottery storage, and I'll have some more shelving over here. So it's going to be kind of cozy, but it's going to be pretty awesome when I get it all done. And this video is basically just going to walk you through this whole process with me. So I got these IKEA shelves that I've been hauling around for a long time, and I'm just setting those up for just storing greenware. I got these really nice lighting kits that are going to be able to light my videos. So let's run out to the garage into the wood shop and let's build a combination wedging table and stand-up wheel throwing table. So I've got these 4x4s that I'm gonna cut at 34 inches high. That's how tall the table is gonna be. And that's a little higher than most people would probably do a wedging table, but I'm 6'4", so a little higher is better for me. If you were going to do one of these, you would want to adjust it to your height, but it's really what's comfortable for you, because you do need to have it a little bit low so that you can kind of lean your weight into it. And you'll see me in the video at some point kind of pretending like I'm doing some wedging, and I'm leaning down and I'm pretending like I'm wedging, and that's kind of a good way to get a sense of what the right height is for you. Of course, I did this before I started measuring and cutting as well, so I knew what height I needed. But then so I'm basically cutting 4 legs. 2 of them are 4x4 pieces and 2 of them are 2x4 pieces. The only reason I did that is because I didn't have enough 4x4s on hand, and this is completely built out of salvaged materials, so I didn't go buy any of this wood. It's all from our lumber reclaim out at the dump. It's pretty cool. You can go scavenge lumber, and I get a lot of good stuff when I do that. So I'm just cutting the legs here, and these are the 2x4 legs. And of course I've got my safety glasses, which are surprisingly comfortable, and the yellow lenses are really great because they actually make everything more crisp, especially in low light. And I've got my earplugs, which are a safety thing, but it's also a matter of convenience too, because I really hate noise. Sometimes I forget that I have them in and I'm just enjoying the peace and quiet. So let's go for a little walk out in the backyard. We're going to go get some more wood out of the woodshed. As you can see, it's a very beautiful spring-like day, but it is in the middle of winter, but that sun sure feels good. This is our old chicken coop out here where we just keep all of our summer stuff and our piles of wood. It's always nice to have a bunch of old 2x4s on hand. Let's head back inside, and I'm going to talk to you a little more about the actual construction of this if you are interested in building a wedging table like this. And so basically what you need is 2x4s and 4x4s. You could do all of the legs with 4x4s and it would be a little more sturdy even, although this table is pretty sturdy with a couple 2x4 legs. but the 4x4s just kind of add weight to it, and you kind of want the table to be heavy so it doesn't move around on you. But the whole thing is built out of 2x4s, 4x4s, and then one piece of plywood. And the thicker the plywood, the better. If you had a 1-inch piece of plywood, that would be awesome, because you want a really solid, stable surface for building on. And then the other thing that's important is you want to use really good screws. So I recommend star drive screws, and a lot of times star drive drill bit will come with that in the box. If not, you can get one. But they drive a lot easier. 3-inch screws would be sufficient to screw all the 2x4s together. You're going to drill the screws in the end of each board to attach them all together, and you do 2 screws. If you have a 3-inch screw, then you just do 2 screws in the end of each board, which is plenty. But that way you can pull the screws out if you need to. If you use the Phillips head screws, then sometimes they strip out. They're really easy to strip out, and then once they're stripped out, they're hard to get out. So if you need to make any adjustments, or for some reason you need to move the table or get rid of it, you want to be able to screw it apart as well. So what I'm doing here is just laying out the frame for the top of the table. So there are going to be 4 pieces that go together, and then the legs will screw into that, and then the plywood will just screw onto the top of the frame to make the finished bench. And this is worth saying twice. Take your time and measure well. Get those 20-inch pieces right at 20 inches, and get those 45-inch pieces right at 45 inches, and it just makes everything go together a lot easier and saves you trouble down the road. And then I've also got a third piece that I'm cutting, because that's going to be a brace down on the bottom. And you can see I set that aside. So now I finally have it set up so it's 20 inches deep and 48 inches wide. And I've just grabbed some star drive screws with my sweet little Makita drill, and I'm just putting a bunch of screws in it. See, I have it set up on some boards so it's kind of staying even while I screw in all the legs. And the 2x4 legs are going to face toward me when I'm standing at the bench, and that will just allow me to have less wood in the way of me wanting to kick it. And now I'm laying out the cross braces here, and I'm putting them 4 inches up. And that was a kind of arbitrary choice, but they do need to be up off the ground so that when you walk around it or stand near it, your toes will go underneath that board instead of hitting that board. It just allows you to stand closer to the table. And now I'm cutting 2 more 20-inch pieces as braces, and then you'll see in a minute. So I'm laying them out. I'm getting it all at 4 inches so they'll all be even. But then I'm drawing nice square lines on there so I can line everything up. Those little speed squares are great, and if you don't have one, it's worth going to the hardware store and buying one. Oh, and then I always like to start the screws. Oh, and you'll see that I just cut off an extra 1.5 inches because I realized it didn't need to extend all the way out, because I'm not putting a brace across the 2x4s where my feet are going to be, because when I'm standing up and working, I'm going to be kind of squatting down a little bit just to get more of an athletic pose, more of an active stance, and I don't want any boards in my way. So Anyway, I recut those so they're actually not 20 inches, they're 18 and a half inches. And then I pre-drilled my screws into there to make it easier, and then I'm just zipping them into place. 2 screws into each board for a total of 4 screws on each 2x4. And then I'm just going to move these boards out of the way and drop it down onto the ground and make sure that it's good. And you can see I'm wiggling it and it's unlevel because I put this 4x4 a little too high. I think I had a warped board that it was setting on or something, I don't know. But I'm just taking the screws out and adjusting it a little bit. There's probably a more professional way to get things perfectly level, but this is not, as you hear people say when you're doing carpentry, we're not building a piano, it's just a bench. So do a little testing to see if it's the right height and if it's going to be comfortable, and test it for strength. And we're good to go with that. Now we can go get a top piece for it, and I just got a big, I think it's 3/4 inch or maybe 5/8 inch plywood. Pretty thick. And it's just an old beat up piece, and I'm gonna cut off all the rough extra. But I'm cutting this, I think I cut it at 24 inches wide, so I'm going to leave some overhang on one end. I kind of decided at the last minute that I would like a little extra table space, so I made it 24 inches. And that's okay because it's a thick piece of plywood, so it doesn't need to be supported everywhere. And the key to using a circular saw is just to take your time and go slow. And even with the video sped way up, you can still see that I'm going pretty slow. And pick the side that's nice, and then I'm going to get it lined up here. And then because I'm in such a tight space down there in that furnace room, there are a couple of corners that people walking by would tend to hit their hips on. You know how you always hit your thighs or your hips into corners of tables and you kind of get those bruises? Well, I'm cutting those off so they're not going to hurt people as they're heading down to go to the laundry room. Once I get those cut, I can take them down to the furnace room itself, and we're ready to get finished up. But before I can bring the bench in, I have to create this kind of backdrop because I really don't like that just white painted concrete back there. So I've taken these old strips of barn wood and I'm just attaching them up so it looks a little better, and it actually is going to make a darker backdrop so everything in the foreground stands out a little bit better when I'm shooting videos. You can see up in the left hand corner one of my box lights. Those make really nice lighting for videos. And of course you can see my cute little stepkids helping me out in there. They're awesome little studio helpers. And then we can bring the table in and start getting it all set up, and we're gonna put some screws into the tabletop itself to hold it down. And I was pretty generous with the screws because you want it to feel really sturdy, so don't skimp on the screws there. You don't want it to kind of rattle or anything. And then we can lay the canvas on here, which is great for wedging, and anytime you're just working with clay on a surface, the canvas is really helpful. And this is just an old leftover canvas that I had from my painting days that I've been keeping for years. And then we're ready to go. You can get the wheel out and get it plugged in. Make sure to take your rings off. I have to take my wedding ring off because I always forget. You don't want to sand it down with the clay. And then it's time to do some pottery. Of course, this is the second pot that I've had the chance to do on this wheel. The last one I did just sitting on the floor. So it's awfully nice to have a really nice table and a nice space with great lighting where you can work. And of course the kids are excited and they've been dying for a chance to get on the wheel and try it out, so they're excited. And hopefully I'll get to do some videos where the kids can actually do pottery and you can see their skills. Those are always fun videos. But that's it. That is the entire process that I just went through: setting up shelving, setting up a backdrop, building a table, getting the canvas stretched onto it, and then throwing our first practice test pot that obviously failed, but that's how it goes because we were just having fun. We'll re-wedge that and I will get to use that clay in another video where I actually teach you how to do pottery rather than carpentry. But thanks for watching, thanks for checking out the journey, and I will see you in another video.